Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, where we co-create powerful, conscious conversations on the leading edge. Today is a really special day for several reasons. First off, I have John Fyfe, a really dear friend of mine, who is actually the show's top downloaded guest. So I'm really excited that you're here today, John. So welcome.
Well, thank you. So it's a pleasure to be on your show or back on your show.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. And something to celebrate with you is that you have a brand new book that you just released. So yeah, tell us about it.
Well, I work with astrology and palmistry, Vedic astrology, which is, I was trained and studied in India. So palmistry is, a lot of people have an easier time to resonate with palmistry. So this is primarily a workbook, for beginners and even next level. And it gets all the bases down and what we look for in our hand. And I've been doing workshops over the years and classes, and I just, with all my notes, I compiled a very good, as we said, book for people to sink their teeth into, understand the lines in your hand, what they mean. Mm-hmm. It's exciting, actually.
It's very exciting because I know that, we know that we can interpret things such as the lines in our hands, and it is so fun that we can take a look and say, compare it with maybe a diagram in your book and say, oh, so that's what that means, and be able to kind of explore our own lines. That's fun.
Well, it's true. And we look at, obviously major lines, heart line, if it's a long heart line. If it's a short heart line, it's not that the person is, close-hearted. They may be closed down through hardships. So we take a look at the length of that major line and compare it to the length of your headline, how you think and how you feel. And so those are major lines. The lifeline, which is going around the thumb. Mm-hmm. And, to see longevity or health. And it's not always the truth that a short lifeline means life is short. We have assistant lifelines that join up on the inside of that lifeline. And I've seen with many people that when they have a secondary lifeline, it's often that they've had a 180-degree shift in their life or are living in another country, have left their home country, and another lifeline starts to get created.
Wow, that's really cool.
It is.
Wow.
And of course, then we look at, major lines. We look at what's called a major line and a wisdom line or minor line. It's our destiny line. And of course, that's what we want to know, how our destiny is playing out. Is it growing longer? Is it stretching out? Is it multiple? Multiple means there's choices, many choices, or changeability. Or perhaps there's a very short line or no line. So purpose is not really being fulfilled because they don't understand their direction.
Mm. Wow.
But what's also exciting with people, in the book we talk about the wisdom lines and the lines beneath the fingers, because the fingers are all signifying planets. And without getting into too much detail of the planets, we'll talk a bit about astrology later. But sometimes I've given a talk and I said, what can really get people to gravitate to, this talk? And of course I bring up the union line, our marriage line, our relationship line, which is only, represents about 3% of the hand.
Oh,
and
okay.
We're spending a lot of time, 90% of our time in there. Mm-hmm. But, so the union lines is beneath the pinky finger, and it's little sharp lines that formulate. My hand is clear. That formulate, just on the edge.
So what does that say about your relationships?
Oh, my relationship, forget it. The thing in my life, I had, and the palmist he said to me that I studied with when I was, well, I think 23 years old. I went to see this palmist, and he was well known. And I had a certificate to go see him. And he said, "You have two union lines very close together." And I said, "And?" He said, "So does it happen that when you meet someone and you go head over heels that you found someone, a week or two later, someone else appears?" I said, "That has actually happened." And he said, "It's not playing the field. It's that you have choices to make because two often show up at the same time. That's when they're very close to each other." Now, a union line, one union line, you'll have multiple, but it's the uppermost line.
Move your hand up. There you go.
The uppermost line in your union is the one that's coming or the one you're in. The ones beneath it would be representing the ones you've had, even previous marriages. So then we have to see if it's a sharp line, or if it's fairly long, or it's just a little bit of what would we say, a short line that's beginning to bud. So at that time, it could be that in the book it's explained, a long union line brings your heart and commitment to the relationship, whereas a short line is a little bit hesitant. But we have hope because the lines in our hands actually change. They can grow longer or shorter. And so I do handprints whenever I can, and I keep the prints in file. And someone can come back to me a year later, 2 years later, and you'll see changes in the lines. For instance, someone that had a short heart line had a lot of losses in their life, and the trust issues were gone, and the heart had shriveled up, if you will. It became short and became beneath the Saturn finger, Saturn's restriction. We want the heart line to go up to the index finger, Jupiter, expansion, opens. So that person had the short heart line and then came back and saw me 2 or 3 years later. I brought the file out, compared the print, and I saw the heart line had grown a half an inch.
That's so romantic.
And I know they met someone.
Yeah.
So before it was he sat down and I said, "So you've met someone in your life?" And he's going, "Oh my God, what else does he know?" Wow. So it's fascinating. And the palmistry works hand in hand, so to speak, with the astrology chart.
Yeah, so, and I just want to point out that if those that are watching and listening have not watched or listened to that previous episode, we go really in depth there as well. And also in Goddess Lifestyle School, there are we do I believe we do some stuff after the show, so where we dive in deep. And you actually took a look at my palm prints and my chart, and all sorts of revealing things.
Yes, we were working on many things, but one was a relationship area, and we'll have to have that under re-examination.
Yeah, I'm still single. I hope I haven't. You're like you said. Okay, there's this window of time, and you have to get out more. And I hope I didn't miss my opportunity.
No, you haven't, because I took a peek into your chart before we came into the show, and there's still doors open in relationship field, which actually peak a little later. There's a door open since last year, and that door remains open. But then when we look down the road in a year or two, does it seem like that door closes? No, it actually gets stronger.
Nice. Okay.
You'll be married in 2 years.
Okay. Well, and
maybe 3.
Well, and I actually just did a session with Shirley Bolstock, who she's a mutual friend of ours, and
right.
She actually bumped this person up in my timeline by 8 months. So,
So that's right. We can do the planets dominate what is going on with us, or can we work the energy of the planets? And it's the latter, really.
Yeah.
So planets, as we see in our hands, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter expansion, Saturn is restriction, Sun is dynamism, Mercury communication, and other many other significations. Mercury is the healer, the business person. A nice Mercury line helps with better communication skills, but Mercury typifies the analytical mind. It's the nervous system. So when we wake up in the morning and we have all those thoughts going on, hundreds of thoughts, what we're going to do today, what happened last week, what's going on next week, that's Mercury, the Mercury mind, we call it. But when we wake up in the morning and we have, the feelings are deep in our solar plexus, the emotions, that's the emotional moon. So emotional mind and functional mind. Mercury is functional mind, moon, emotional mind. So when we're looking at what do the planets have a say with this, people ask me often, why do the transits seem so negative? One hit after another after another. And the thing is, it's human nature. We look to make changes, but we hesitate, of the unknown. So we stay kind of locked into, our pattern, our groove, looking for the change, but not really making that move. So a transit happens and gives us a pretty good kick, sometimes a very hard kick.
Yeah.
But if we were moving and flowing, just taking that path and evolving, moving forward without fear and hesitation, then the planet transit hits us at point A when we've actually moved to point B. So the impact there is less of an impact.
Sure. So I love, that's a perfect way to describe it, like a kick in the butt to move you forward. Because
we've been getting kicks in the last year, seriously so.
Yeah, it does keep ramping up. So, and I know that we have some even more difficult energy coming up. Because, you have a great Facebook group and you have your newsletter that you send out and you share kind of bits and pieces of what's coming. And so at the end of the show, definitely let's make sure that people know where to find you on Facebook and for your book.
Right. Yes.
But what the heck? I mean, it's like so intense and it is just showing up huge for everybody. I mean, it's like, there's got to be a point at which it stops, ramping up and banging us in the, like bashing us around.
Remember that song? What was it? Breaking up is hard to do. I think it's called Waking Up is hard to do. Yeah. And I believe since, it's been going on since 212. And in 212, Earth went into a vortex, into a portal. It raised the vibration. And that was the end of the Mayan calendar. If you read other books and other people talking of such a thing, that we were looking for an acceleration after 212, a liftoff, an opening. And yet, that is happening, but it seems to be happening as we would think in a negative way. There's a lot of disconnection going on amongst friends, families. And so what's happening? So what's happening is that I believe vibrations are raising, and that means the planetary vibrations, the impact of those transits are also being raised. And we were all looking a lot, we're hoping, let's say, rather than looking, for bells and whistles to happen right after 212.
Right.
Except we forgot one thing, is that we have to review ourselves, like take a look in the mirror to kind of help raise that vibration. So if you want, we have to let go of the blame game, the judgments, everything that's affecting us in our world. And then it's getting harder because people are reacting more and attacking more over small things. So it's hard to find your center point and to, you want to make your stand in talking your truth, but you don't want to have conflict. Mm-hmm. And it seems that all of this has increased amplification. Mm-hmm. It's still going to be a release, one way or the other. See, our world is in a place that everything's getting exposed.
Yes.
But it's nothing new. It was always there. The political structure, if you will, the ways of people, and that disconnect that is happening amongst us. It has to be. We have to do a reset. My opinion. I talk with many people, so it's not strictly my opinion. It's basically we want to have more connection with people, and so what is happening with the planets? when we look at the vibration of things, in 212, we had a huge transit. It was a square, and that square is when planets are 90 degrees off each other. And so that's a hit. That's like an opposition. Mm-hmm. And the planets were Uranus, or Uranus as we call it now, and Pluto. I saw you smiling. Let's see. So they were squaring each other.
We always have to be PC about everything.
Yeah, don't use that word Uranus now. I like that word. That's what I got trained with. So that square, it lasted for 3.5 years. And I might have said this on our last show, but I'll go over it quickly. In 93, we had a transit which lasted 9 months, and it was a conjunction of Neptune and Uranus. And so it was a 9-month transit. And what was the effect of that? Well, Uranus is about shocking changes, electrifying changes, and its inventions, electrical inventions. So 93, the internet became worldwide used. After that, DVDs replaced VHS, cell phones became the thing to use, and many other components as well, like inventions, electrical inventions hit the top. Neptune, on the other hand, is a nebulous energy, and it has basically a surrealistic point of view. Mm-hmm. So from 93, we got into virtual reality world more. People began dating online. Programs came out like X Factor and Big Brother. It was all virtual reality world. So what occurred in that 9-month transit had a lasting effect in our environment, in our community, in our social world, the next 20 years. Wow. So the Pluto-Uranus square of 2012 lasted over 3.5 years, will have a huge impact over from 212 to the next 16 years. So the promised land, what it says to bring, Uranus says shocking changes for your freedom. Pluto says transformation, but not before there's a lot of explosions that go on. So that door could take it will take as long as it will take, but it will happen. My call is another 10 years. Well, that we can get into a very harmonious time.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are wondering, how the heck do we deal with that? And from what I've learned, my own personal experience, that the more you can stay in flow and look at everything as an opportunity, even as uncomfortable or how much it sucks, you look at it as an opportunity, and then and stay in a state of kind of release in a way where you're open to moving and changing and not holding on to like the old ways of doing things.
Right. I agree. It makes us sometimes just feel a little puzzled about what that new way is. It's just to be. Right. But so the planets in transits keep hammering us. And yet, like I said, we can be at point B. We don't have to be, say, besieged by all the energies around us. Our environment affects us, and that disconnect is going on. And things have speeded up. So we've speeded up, with our use online and then with cell phones and all that, and so we're not as easily to be connected with each other in, say, real time. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
But it's funny how now the pendulum's going the other way, and everybody's all trying to do things offline, and right. Even Facebook, it's like, we're here for building community, and they want to build these connections, and so I love seeing how this is shifting back to having those personal relationships again, especially in the marketing world.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. Yeah. Many are.
Yeah. So for me personally, these last couple of weeks have been extremely challenging, and we've had stuff in our family, conflict, just like everyone else. We had some guy drove through our like a fence at the lake house and hit a tree and unfortunately, he's unconscious and not sure if, hopefully he'll make it, but,
Wow.
just really intense, like you say, being hit with one thing after the next, and being in this like constant need to get into like that survival mode, kind of in a way.
Yeah, and I've experienced, well, and other people, like more chaos, and people have talked to me and asked, with Mercury, as we beginning to know, most of us, Mercury goes off orbit every 3 months and goes into a retrograde motion,
Mm-hmm.
and Mercury, the planet of communication, then causes, not kind of, a chaos. You know, things speed up and get chaotic. But that left us over a month ago, and it seems that it's still going on. Just as you mentioned, the accidents are related to Mars,
Mm.
and Mars went into its strongest sign about 3 weeks ago, most powerful sign, the sign of Capricorn. It will accelerate Mars energy, and Mars energy is about assertiveness, to be, in a balanced way, or it could be angry, it could be reactive, and it is accidents.
Yeah.
And there have been numerous accidents from also people that I know of. And so what we have coming for us seems to me that last summer we had that full-on eclipse in August,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to me that these eclipses are being very powerful. Eclipses happen twice a year. It's not that we need to hide under the bed and eclipse is coming, but they do have a lasting effect, eclipses, from one eclipse to the next. So I always ask people to look at their storyline from the last year in August when eclipses occurred and February when they reoccurred, because we're having, again, these eclipses come back in July, July 13th, July 27th, and a third one, which is not normal. Coming in, it would be 12, 14 days after the 27th, so around August the 8th.
Wow.
So what it can do is
Wow.
make you reflect or see things that reoccur from the previous eclipses. And I think this year is very powerful for us in the sense that things have escalated so much that we need to take a look at the energy. It need not be the story. It doesn't have to be a tragic thing, but it can be an event that takes place or a change that you're contemplating, or it could have been a split up that occurred. So these things will kind of get reassessed during an eclipse. But after, Mercury will retrograde again in July, causes all this wackiness. If you're by the ocean and by the beach, and that could be a good place to be.
Oh, good. I will be at the beach. I will be at the beach then.
Lucky you. Then the three eclipses will occur. Then, as middle of August, will be a time that it's like that air balloon gets diffused. It's full. And that's the time, I call it, in the 4 to 5 months afterwards, to see what you've been evaluating in the last year and maybe take a course of action from that point on, from middle of August.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important wrap up to this year.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, we got some stuff to look forward to.
But only in hindsight can we see that, right? It says, oh, well, maybe, yeah. I thought he said last summer the eclipses would occur and there would be a breakthrough, which I did say.
Well, I had a breakthrough. Yeah, a lot of things have happened. Actually, one thing that this is actually the first time I'm publicly announcing this, so perfect, right? So today is wrapping up season 8 for the show. I've been doing the show. This is like 202, I believe, episodes. Almost 4 years of running the show, and I was feeling like I was having that angsty feeling about the show and how moving forward and all of that. And so what I've decided, which is a huge thing for me, and I'm getting a little anxious saying it, but I have decided that starting next week, moving forward, that the show's going into reruns. And I'm doing something which I'm hoping will be really fun. And that's where I'm going to start at my first episode that I did as a video, as the TV show. and we're going to go through each episode, and I'm going to do like live commentary during the episode. We'll see how that goes, but
It sounds like something of interest, especially, people are talking about what it was 2 years ago and what is occurring now. You
yeah.
can take a look in hindsight. That sounds
Yeah.
something that would be of interest.
I think so, because, a lot of the information, most of the episodes and the guests, we're really talking about evergreen information, stuff that it's more personal self-development stuff. And yeah, and I was even just taking a peek at the first episode that we'd be showing next week, which is with Monsieur Anam. And I was laughing at myself because, I was so nervous and but
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm hoping that that
you've
people will enjoy
grown
that. Oh yes. Yeah.
immensely.
Yeah.
And so you're hoping. Sorry, you were saying you were hoping for.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because it's been a one woman show where I've done all aspects of the show, from, the editing, the everything that goes into the show. And I got the sense a few weeks ago that the show had really served its purpose in terms of what my personal development and growth was. And so it's interesting, before, in the pre-show or before the show started, you and I were kind of just chatting about the shifts that are happening in my life and how that's showing up in my chart. So we just have a few minutes to talk about that.
Yeah, we will, because it's a big opening that you were having. What did I say? Before we talked, there's two energies going on. The planet Uranus, that is bringing freedom in some capacity, change for your freedom. That can be way out there, but it's the only planet that actually offers the door to freedom. Many people get to that door and it's the unknown and would say, I don't think so. I'll come back later.
Yeah.
But so there you are, and we have to see what's, we work in astrology timelines, right? Periods that are coming into your life, and it goes on to this year, to next year, to the year after. We can see where it leads you to, and so that we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I've been feeling, I created something called the Envision Experience last year. And at the time, I wasn't fully in the place where I was able to really put it out there. And it feels like that is what's next for me, is to kind of let go of, because I have a tendency to do lots of different things. And it feels like it's time for me to really focus my energy on sharing that, because, it's been, envisioning for me has been transformational and really has helped me manifest huge things that, like my Europe trip, just so easily. And so, yeah, it feels like it's time.
Right, and we will take a look in what, just to answer what you asked the last 2 weeks. I said there was Mars energy, but there was also like a very dysfunctional, erratic energy, and that can take us into doing too many things at the same time. That was Uranus and Mercury were together, and so it becomes for some people, could even be dysfunctional, but erratic is the key word. And so it's to keep our focus. And people ask, how do I keep my focus if it's busy in my chart already? And there are ways of having understanding of it, but still we get taken out here, there. You could be working on a project in your house, and there's an accident outside your house, right? And and that was pretty serious, event. But it can be other distractions that come your way. And so when Uranus and Mercury were together, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So it really can accelerate things, but it can also be very positive. It can be very positive that there's no stopping you now, and you're really going, but it's keeping that focus. Not multifaceted is one thing, but if it's 10 times multifaceted, then it's not getting you anywhere, because you're over here, and you're over here, and you're over here. So that's we're going to have to learn how to run with that because things have accelerated so much with the electronics in our society.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I would like to say, well, not the last thing, because I can go on for
Yeah.
a whole day.
I know you and I will have to chat after the show, so you can. I know you have lots more, but yeah. So go
There
ahead.
is an energy in the next 2 weeks that is a little volatile, a lot volatile. It doesn't mean what everything, say, negative or bad's to happen, but you got to watch for reactions, overreactions, because that's not going away. This is a Mars energy, and it can be. You got to be careful driving. Just take a second and keep the focus, because it can accelerate events and worldwide also. So it's not like, it's just a heads up rather than a warning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I almost got sideswiped last week, so it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, so we definitely need to, I think really important is grounding ourselves, because this energy is so frenetic and very like fast and like sped up. It's like we really have to take just even a moment to really get ourselves centered before we're taking actions, especially things like you think about driving and how, like the guy that went and hit our tree, that was an accident. He wasn't expecting that to happen. And things are accidents. So we have to be really mindful about what we're doing.
really, I mean, it goes to say it's reaction too, because we're feeling squeezed or like your back is against the wall, so we are overreacting. It's our emotions that are getting slammed. We need, a little more nurturing. We need, to calm down a little, and and however we do that, it's essential and important that we can do that, because that's what we're also meant to enjoy our environment in this world and nature and things like that, when we don't have time.
Yeah.
We do have time. It's like the planets don't need to rule us. We can be a step ahead. And so that's what I always tell people in private sessions. And when we get into the palmistry it is more personal or easier to understand. But we want to look at your destiny line to see when that's kicking in, what age, because we can see, or if something is on hold, or if there's, worry lines that have developed beneath the moon. These things can change. But when someone hears that, well, you can see those things, and they start to address it, and they say, well, I can't stop this program. I have kids, I have a house to pay, and I'm arguing with my ex, and in court, and it goes on. It's getting stressful out there.
It is.
It doesn't mean it has to be stressful, though. So that's how we kind of work with the palmistry and astrology with people. It's a reminder, it's your blueprint to remind you who you are and what your potential is. And so, that's, I keep on doing that. Often in consultations, I hear what I'm saying, and I say, take that on for yourself, my friend.
Yeah.
Because we can give it good advice to others, and we can see things, but for ourselves, it's also,
Yeah, it's the message we're supposed to also hear for some reason. Yeah.
And so everybody can reach me on Facebook, and I can add you to my astrology blog group. So I write posts, blogs, newsletters. I'm also going to create a YouTube station.
Oh, nice.
Channel, and what we're going to do is have monthly, or maybe even more than that, talks about what's going on with the planets, with the vibration, and not long, but it's a heads up all the time. So if you friend me on Facebook, to John Fyfe, Fyfe is my last name, I'll add you to our group, and it's a private group, so we share things if you wish to, or you just receive information about what's going on for this week.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, those little tips are very helpful. I read it and I'm like, oh yes, totally. That's totally what's going on.
Well, some people get mad at me and say, when is this going to stop, John? And, this is like,
As if
they want
the
good
one
news. We want good news. I agree.
Yeah.
Don't be gloom and doom. Oh, what? But people also, when it's good and people get comfortable with good, even bored.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's extreme or there's something happening, it's like, okay, now we can get more into the drama of it.
Yeah.
So we can offer a lot of that this summer.
We are humans. We do have that aspect of enjoying bits of drama. So.
Right. And if anybody is interested, you can also find this book online at Amazon.
Okay. Hold it up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, it has all kinds of interesting
nice
diagrams and explanations.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see that very clearly.
Yep.
But anyways, any information I have that you can write me and I can give to you.
It's called Vedic Palmistry and Introduction, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And where can they find it, you said?
You can find it on Cyberwit, my publisher in India, and he delivers just as quickly as Amazon.
Nice.
And Cyberwit is CYBER.WIT or on Amazon. And it's also on digital.
Excellent. Oh,
Thanks.
How cool. Well, John, thank you so much for joining me, coming back
on
the show.
This is exciting. This is like the last show for now.
How could I have anyone else other than you? I mean, you put the cherry on top.
Well, thank you. It's been my honor to come on and be a part of your show beforehand, and this last show means something new is going to start out from it.
Definitely. We will be looking back on this day and say, that was when.
We will.
Yes. So thank you. And please hang around, John, so we can chat after. And thanks all for joining today. And see you next week for a fun replay or rerun. And we're going to do the live commentary. So hope you will join. All right. Take care.
Bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.